Dear representatives of the media, we will start now the press conference of Minister of Foreign Affairs Edgars Rinkēvičs and Deputy Secretary of State John Sullivan. Now I give the floor to our Minister. Hello, dear colleagues. We just finished our negotiations with Deputy Secretary of State John Sullivan, and we discussed very many issues on cooperation regionally and other types of cooperation. This visit was planned some time ago as part of the preparation visit for the presidents of the United States of America and the Baltic countries, and now I want to reconfirm that in Washington this year on the 3rd of April this summit will take place, and we spoke not only about safety and security, our cooperation where in this sector our cooperation is very good. We also negotiated possibilities of cooperation within the area of education and trade, and this is very important meeting because all three presidents will visit Washington. They will meet the President of the United States, Donald Trump, and other officials on the year when all the Baltic countries will celebrate and are celebrating their 100th anniversary. We are going to work on this summit, and at the beginning of March, 3 Baltic state ministries of foreign affairs will meet officials and Minister of Foreign Affairs of the United States of America in Washington in March, as I said. We spoke about our cooperation in defense, and I thanked United States of America for their support, financial support, as well as by presence of U.S. soldiers here in Latvia and in the Baltics. We spoke about other issues concerning our cooperation on combating and elimination of cyber threats and how to make the exchange of information safer. And you, the journalists, will have many questions as to topicalities of the last days. We spoke about this issue as well. We spoke about issues of finance sector, and here I would like to just stress that we, the government of Latvia, as well as Council of Safety and Security, we clearly define 3 things that I also reconfirmed to my colleague. First of all, that the government of Latvia and the Council of National Security is strictly standing for the facts that all things that have been done by public officials or any officials or anyone concerning breaches should be investigated thoroughly. And we are willing to help in all ways, and our colleagues are from the United States also expressed their willingness to help us practically and with advice. So we will tackle these issues immediately. And another thing that I mentioned, we are very interested, and our partners reconfirmed that it will be possible, but namely that we are willing and eager to tie the financial sector, because it's an issue of not only of image of Latvia, but also safety and also independence of our country. We see this as an opportunity to solve these issues, actually. And finally, we spoke about issues concerning EU-USA dialogue. namely that we see many things in a common way. Namely, there will be many business projects, as well as we spoke about sanctions against Russia for their aggression in Ukraine, as well as we spoke about other bilateral cooperation issues. And if you have some questions, we will be able to answer them. Maybe now Mr. Sullivan has something to add before you come up with your questions.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm delighted to be here in Riga and to have the opportunity to meet with Foreign Minister Rinkēvičs to discuss global security issues and regional priorities. As the Foreign Minister said, we just concluded a very productive meeting in which we discussed a range of issues that show how deep and broad the relationship is between the United States and Latvia. I want to start by extending our sincerest congratulations to Latvia, as well as Estonia and Lithuania, on your centennial. We look forward to celebrating 100 years of independence throughout this year, concluding with the anniversary on November 18th. To that end, I want to confirm and express my great confidence in announcing the meeting on April 3rd that President Trump will host for all three of the Baltic presidents in Washington, D.C. This summit has been in the works for some time. We've been working on it diligently in Washington and in consultation with our colleagues in Riga, Vilnius, and Tallinn, and we're very much looking forward to it, as well as the Foreign Ministers' Conference on March 5th. This summit is a testimony to the strength and vibrancy of the relationship between the United States and the three Baltic nations, reflecting President Trump's view that a strong alliance of free, sovereign, and independent nations is the best defense for our freedoms and for our interess. It will celebrate our admiration for all that the Baltic nations have accomplished these past 100 years and mark our commitment to the region for the next 100 years. Returning to Latvia specifically, I want to note that as an EU partner and NATO ally, Latvia shares our goal of strengthening the alliance to address the full range of threats facing the transatlantic community. As I've discussed with the Minister, security threats can take many forms, including corruption and efforts to undermine the integrity of the financial system. We're pleased to see that Latvian authorities are taking decisive steps to investigate illicit activity and corruption in the banking sector. The United States stands by Latvia and will fully support its effort to establish a well-regulated and thriving banking sector. The United States, Latvia, and our NATO allies also clearly recognize the threat posed by Russia. We remain focused on countering Russian efforts to undermine democratic institutions and the transatlantic partnership. At the same time, we recognize the importance of cooperation with Russia where it is in our mutual interest, ensuring strategic stability, defeating ISIS in Syria, and sending a unified message to the DPRK. It is the United States' goal to work with partners like Latvia to ensure that these efforts continue. The U.S. commitment to NATO's Article 5 is ironclad, and as President Trump, Vice President Pence, Secretary Tillerson, and Secretary Mattis have all made it abundantly clear that an attack on any of us is an attack on all of us. We're grateful to Latvia for leading by example on burden sharing among NATO allies. Latvia has committed to investing 2% of its GDP in defense this year and devoting at least 20% of that share of 20% share of its GDP towards major equipment acquisitions. And we're hopeful that our work with Latvia on this front will encourage other allies to implement the Wales Defense Investment Pledge. In addition to our collaboration on defense and security issues, Latvia and the United States are close partners on a wide range of critical international issues, both bilaterally and through the EU. In that realm, I want to commend the Latvian Embassy in Washington, D.C. for taking concrete steps to build stronger bilateral business and investment ties this year. Reopening a U.S.-based office for the Investment and Development Agency of Latvia was an important milestone, as well as executing Spotlight Latvia, the largest ever Latvia business promotion event in the United States. The connections between our people continue to deepen as well through partnerships and exchanges, including work on media literacy programs, the exchange of Fulbright English teaching assistants, and visits by world-renowned authors. We gain an ever better understanding of each other and of our mutual values. So, in conclusion, I'm thrilled to be here to reaffirm our strong relationship with Latvia, and I look forward to answering any questions along with the foreign minister that you might have. Thank you.
Laiks jautājumiem.
Time for questions, please, from Latvian television. Sabine Bērziņa.
I have a question regarding FinCEN report to Mr. Sullivan. Has the U.S. given more detailed information and evidence supporting the claims of FinCEN to our anti-corruption authorities, because they have mentioned they're lacking some of the evidence to take further steps? Thank you.
Thank you. Our cooperation with Latvia on strengthening anti-corruption efforts in the financial institutions in Latvia are wide-ranging. Without getting into details on the specific matter that you mentioned, our work across the U.S. government, not just the State Department, but Treasury Department, Department of Justice, is extensive, is wide-ranging, and I want to reaffirm that the United States is working in partnership with Latvia to address the issues that were discussed in the FinCEN report, and more generally in supporting Latvia's effort to fight corruption and reform its financial institutions. It's not merely a question of creating a better environment for economic prosperity for Latvia, but it's also a national security issue. So we are committed to it, committed to our partnership with our strong NATO ally, and look forward to working with them on these and many other issues. Thank you.
Jautājums Reuters.
Hello, my name is Edgars. I'm from Reuters News Agency. I have a question to Mr. Sullivan. In the recent days, we have really concerning developments taking place in the Latvian financial system, and one of the aspects of the developments is the FinCEN report about the ABLV bank, which says that there are concerns about money laundering and also allegations about possible bribery. I was also wondering whether the U.S. is targeting only the ABLV bank at the moment, or whether, when you read the report, you might have an impression that you are implying that the problem persists within the whole banking sector. Do you have any other Latvian banks in sight? Thanks.
Well, as I said before, the United States relationship, both the Department of State, Department of the Treasury, and other U.S. government agencies are working very closely with the Latvian government on anti-corruption issues and reform of the financial sector in Latvia, which the Latvian government has the lead on, of course. We're happy to work with them and support them as partners. I would defer to the U.S. Department of the Treasury for any specific inquiry about that investigation and that report, which is still an open matter. But I can reaffirm today the importance of the partnership between the United States and Latvia in working on these issues, and I know the foreign minister shares my views on this.
Let me just add that, as you all know, we have long-standing cooperation with the United States. We had already one period where we were cooperating very closely during our accession process to OECD. I think that we had already very good results. Apparently, as I said, the government is very committed, first of all, to let investigators to do their work, as in any normal rule of law-based country. Whoever must be prosecuted will be prosecuted. We are also looking forward for very close cooperation between our law enforcement agencies, and that's normally what diplomats do not interfere with. That's for investigators to work with. But also let me say that we have seen also very good contacts. Our ambassador met officials of the Treasury. We are expecting the high-level visit in March, and so this is ongoing process, and as I said, both the government as well as the National Security Council is fully committed to address all those issues that have been related with money laundering and sanctions regime against North Korea or any other sanction regime that has been imposed by the international community.
Latvijas radio.
Gins Amoliņš, Latvian National Radio. I have a bank question regarding the ABLV bank. What does ABLV bank have to do to end concerns of the U.S. financial authorities and to prevent the sanctions actually being imposed on the bank?
Well, as you know, what the Treasury Department announced was a notice of proposed rulemaking. There is now an administrative procedure in place with, I believe, 60 days for the bank to respond. I don't want to prejudge in any way the continuation of that process or make a comment one way or the other on how Treasury might react at the end or respond in any way. We should let that process play out, and that's really all I can say at this point about that specific matter.
Latvijas avīze.
Ģēds Vikmanis, newspaper Latvijas avīze. In brief, I just want to ask about the FinCEN report. Could you highlight the methodology, the methods, how these reports are being made? And the second, there in this particular report is about ABLV, that allegations that ABLV has used bribing to secure their alleged illegal activities to Latvian authorities. Could you highlight from where these allegations come? Thanks a lot.
Well, I think the most I can say about that issue is what I've said before, which is the United States government, Treasury Department, and the State Department and others are working closely with our partners in Riga on these issues. I can't comment on the specifics of the ABLV case because it's a pending matter before the Department of Treasury. But what I can say is that we are working very closely with our partners in the Latvian government to address concerns about corruption and financial reform, and we're looking forward to supporting the Latvian government as it works to root out corruption and improve the functioning of its financial system.
Wall Street Journal.
Are you concerned, why is Washington cracking down on money laundering in a Euro country? Is the ECB doing enough here? Do they lack mechanisms? Why is this falling to DC when this is a Eurozone country? Thank you.
Money laundering is a concern to the United States as it affects a NATO ally, Latvia. As I said, we work very closely with our colleagues here in Latvia. We obviously leave to the ECB dealing with this particular bank in Riga. The action that's been proposed by the Department of the Treasury is authorized by U.S. law. A sanction has been proposed, and it's a sanction that indicates the seriousness with which the United States takes money laundering, particularly money laundering as described in the FinCEN report that implicates U.S. national security interests.
Let me just add, look, let's be very clear. We still have a discussion within the European Union about the authority of European Central Bank concerning money laundering issues, because the European Central Bank currently is responsible for overseeing the banks through purely financial stability lenses. But as you know, there are directives and regulations that have been considered also on the transfer of more authority to the European Central Bank, also when it regards to supervising illegal activities. So this is probably the case that could be used also to improve both the national capability as well as the European capability. Of course, Mr. Secretary, I think that our colleagues from the press have mixing up a little bit what foreign ministries do and what ministries of finance or treasuries do. But as foreign ministries, we always need to take all the questions regardless the matter. However, let me say one thing. We have got enough information that our authorities are working on when it comes to money laundering as well as the violation of sanctions regime. Those are issues that are being currently investigated, and I think that we all are interested in a speedy conclusion of investigations, be it bribery or be it sanctions violation issues or be it money laundering issues. And here also we will use the opportunity of both the March meeting as well as the April meeting to advance this cooperation that we very highly value and that we have developed with the United States. Apparently that's also a very, very strong message to the banking system, not only in Latvia but also throughout the world. We have one more question and then we unfortunately have finished.
Good morning, my name is Koen Verhelst, Dutch Financial Times. A question for Mr. Rinkēvičs. I was wondering, this report came out after already in 2014 the Latvian authorities have, put an I think it was an administrative measure on ABLV. Don't call it a fine. How come the U.S. has to step in now to show that there has been, suspicions of money laundering? Why hasn't there been things from the Latvian side earlier to, show these kind of things earlier?
Well, as far as our regulator has informed us, they had a very thorough process of analyzing the data they have received, and they have a legal framework they are operating within. And as you know that, and I already mentioned that there have been banks that have been already fined by our regulator previously. So from that point of view, I do believe that they are doing their work. Not all the facts that they have received probably were at their disposal. That's what the information I have got from the chairman. And that's why we also see that the information that we are getting from United States or measures that we have seen taken by the United States. And that's not a sanction per se that sometimes is already being reported in the press. That's a notice, and the bank has 60 days also to respond. That's their right and that they should do. So from that point of view, I think that we will use those 60 days here in Latvia to work with our American partners and also to investigate those charges that have been put forward, and I am absolutely confident that appropriate action will be taken. This has been rather difficult sector. I know how we were working throughout our OECD accession process. I think that you have seen some very good results. One bank has been closed, actually. That's Trasta Commerzbank. We have seen fines, and that work continues. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes time and the legal process, and you know that there are very strong lawyers also on the opposing side for the government. So I would say that this work is ongoing and it will be continued. We are not interested to have a security or money laundering risk in this country. And that's why we, as I said at my introductory remarks, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for reaffirming that, we see this not as the kind of adversary action, but the friendly assistance that we are getting. So we will continue working on that. Thank you very much.